So I finished Winter's Heart. There's going to be a ton of spoilers. Let's hop into it. So we pick up the story in Far Madding, and I was so excited because the ter'angreal in Far Madding stops channeling from the male side and the female side as well, and they have a ton of non-violent laws. So it really got rid of something that was super instrumental to the end of every single book so far. And one of the first things we see is Issam/Luck, which is Lord Luck, or Luke potentially pronounced, and he is there talking about a chance to kill his nephew. So he is the uncle of one of our characters, and he specifically talks about his nephew and the nephew's wife. So I believe it's either Rand or Lan, and I'm leaning towards Lan, and here's why. There's two reasons I think it would be Lan's uncle. Is number one, the description of the person sounded a lot more like someone from that part of the world. And then number two, we already had someone who looked like Rand's father pop up in Tel'aran'rhiod earlier in the book. And as far as I'm aware, these seem like two different characters. So Issam/Luck is clearly Slayer, who is an incredibly powerful character, maybe someone who's been reborn potentially from the way they were talking about themselves from their perspective. So my prediction for this character moving forward, obviously we should get some kind of Lan and Slayer face off. And my thinking was maybe this Slayer is going to be like some kind of champion of the dark. It's clear that the Chosen don't all have a hold on him, but Moradin does this time round. So it seems like if he wanted to be, he could be independent and powerfully independent as well. So I think he's like his own agent of darkness. I would also love to see Perrin interact with Slayer again after Perrin got the better of him in Tel'aran'rhiod that one time when he was shot in the stomach. And yeah, that was a really cool scene. So I'd love to see, you know, Slayer have an attempt at his redemption and those two go at it as well. So we get some cool information. Olivia is with those guys in Far Madding, and she's extremely powerful, and Min has a viewing about Olivia, and the viewing is that she's not going to kill Rand, but she's going to help Rand die. And it was clear that those were two completely different things. So my thinking was, I don't know how she can help him die, but my guess is if Rand has Lusterian inside of him, and I feel like one of them has to go at some point, because they're the same person, but I don't know, like one of them has to leave. You can't just have two people inside of him the whole entire time. So maybe she is instrumental in helping him kill either Lusterian or kill Rand, so that one of them can go and finish what needs to be done. And then Cadsuane leads her team over to Far Madding as well. And it turns out she's from Far Madding. And I would definitely read a book that chronicles Cadsuane's life's journeys and adventures, 100%. She is by far my favorite Aes Sedai, and yeah, I just really like her. Now, unfortunately, it happened, guys. I read a spoiler, and it was a spoiler in one of the comments, actually, and it was said that Verin was a dark friend, and I thought about not bringing it up, but it seems disingenuous to not bring it up. So I saw a spoiler that Verin is a dark friend, which is really disappointing. However, I think there's more to her story, because she doesn't seem like an out-and-out dark friend. She seems, you know, like reluctant, which was also mentioned in the comments. So I feel like it is a spoiler, which sucks, but I am excited to see where that story goes, because I do feel like she will do what it takes to maybe throw that hold off of her. So if there's a way, maybe she gets in the Oath Rod or something like that, which is plausible because she's an Aes Sedai and she could go back to that White Tower. Maybe we can throw that off, because I do really like Verin. She's quite no nonsense and straightforwards as well, but she's there in Far Madding also. And we get some cool fighting scenes. There is a way for them to channel in Far Madding, and guess who figures it out? Cadsuane, with the ter'angreal that Nynaeve had and that she had as well. They had like a belt kind of similar to in Aragon, when you could store power inside of certain magical items. So this is kind of similar. So basically they get a letter and they go to battle the mutineers of the Asherman, and they get there and they're already dead. And out pops Padan Pain, the man, the myth, the legend, and he does battle with Lan, and he also does battle with Rand as well. And Padan Pain seems even more unhinged. He's talking to himself or Mordeth or potentially, I don't know, the Dark One, or just the voices inside of his head, and he isn't slain. It's a quick interaction, and honestly that was quite disappointing. Padan Pain has definitely been my favorite like in between strange wildcard character, as I said in my awards ceremonies when I was halfway through the series. But my problem is his storyline is so sporadic, it's so in and out, and it really, like, twice he's just popped up at the end of a book now, and it just feels like a big waste of his character, and I'm really scared that his character is going to be wasted. I just feel like it was such a cool character, such a cool dynamic, and he's just slowly fading out of relevance. And if I did the same awards right now, I don't think he would, I'm not sure he would still be my favorite character, because he's just not been in it enough. We either need to lose him as a character and finish that arc, or he needs to be more involved. And I'm really afraid he's just going to fade away and he's going to be a wasted character. Anyway, we'll be back to this storyline because a lot more happens. On the other side of the map, in Ebou Dar, Matt manages to free some of the chained up Daman who were Aes Sedai. But what he also does is he frees somebody else. So Matt frees Nestel, and there really isn't any need for us to have that interaction between Matt and Nestel where they give each other their names and he asks her to wait 3 hours and any of that if we're not going to see her later. So I think she is going to cause havoc. She's going to release a ton of other sea folk, and they're going to cause a big problem either when Matt's escaping just before or just after, and what that's going to do is really confuse the Seanchan. And I think later in the books and in the series we're going to see Nestel owe a big favor to Matt, or maybe even vice versa, depending on how they see it and how much of a distraction she can create. But it will be really cool because Matt will have this kind of hold and debt owed to him by the sea folk, who have already been troublesome for every faction who they've done deals with, notoriously good at doing deals. So Matt essentially did a deal where he released one of them from captivity, and you know, that's a tough one for them not to give fair penance back as well. So I do predict we get Nestel later, and I think a debt is owed. And then I'm very proud of this one. Matt steals Tuon, daughter of the 9 moons, because I called that one in the last video. And Tuon really is an interesting character. Like, she displays her emotions strangely, and I feel like maybe she had some want and desire to marry Matt when he said, "This is my wife," which was like a really, really cool scene, by the way. Yeah, so their escape isn't guaranteed by any way, shape or form. They're still in Ebou Dar, and it's going to be a really fun escape, I hope. I hope it doesn't just brush over it and they're outside of the city already by the next book. And I think, you know, I hope Matt doesn't go straight back to Rand, because although I love Matt and I love Rand, Matt is nowhere near as fun when he's around Rand, because Rand just dominates the story and dominates the page time. So having Matt on his own whirlwind adventure is much more fun. So I'm hoping maybe we get like a prolonged period of time where he is on the run and the Seanchan are trying to catch her, and he has to try and, you know, kind of win Tuon round and essentially marry her somehow as well. So if we could get some kind of prolonged chase, I would be really down for that. Back to the main storyline. So Rand and Lan, they were captured after they failed to defeat Padan Pain, but also the mutineers were dead except for the Shiva, who we get to later. And they're captured, and Cadsuane essentially uses her big brain and experiences and just awesomeness to release them with a bluff of magic. And I really thought that's where this book was going to end. I didn't have much page time left. I think there was like maybe 30 pages left, and I was like, okay, well, that's not enough time for something big to happen. And I was beautifully mistaken. But before we move on to what comes next, I thought it was like a small time finish, which I really enjoyed. The end of nearly every book has been, you know, thunder and lightning from the sky. The gods have been called down, and the barriers of what we thought was possible with channeling and the power were broken in half, and people die. And it was kind of nice to have, like, my analogy for it would be like a Spider-Man ending, you know? Spider-Man, although he's a superhero, was like a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. And that's kind of what we got in Far Madding, like that level of storyline and that level of hero. Whereas normally we get like a Thanos universe-ending storyline. But, you know, we got that anyway, and I'm not mad about it. So we get the coolest ending. We have the Chosen Cow, which is run by Nynaeve and Rand, and what their goal is essentially is to get rid of the taint. But they're 100% aware that the Chosen / Forsaken are going to be coming to try and stop them doing that. So we have this incredible section where we're next to Shadar Logoth, which is probably one of my favorite and most interesting locations. And essentially, from the sounds of it, what they're trying to do is channel the taint through the female, like a funnel of the female power, female source, into Shadar Logoth. And the reason for that is because when he was there last time, he could see that the evilness of that had an effect on the taint. And essentially it creates this huge dome over Shadar Logoth. And we also get these different perspectives from the actual, from people who are at the actual huge monuments with that are the Sangreal, because these are just keys that they're using to access the Sangreal's power. And man, I had so much fun reading those chapters. And essentially, long story short, we get tons of the Chosen defeated, one of them killed, and we also get some perspectives from them as well. And then what looks like Shadar Logoth, essentially, it doesn't explode, it just is destroyed. The city is, and it's confirmed that the taint has been completely removed. And there's so much to talk about. The first thing is, what does that mean for Padan Pain? Because Morduth is like a citizen, essentially, like trapped there in Shadar Logoth. And Padan Pain is partly Morduth, and it sounds like Shadar Logoth is just like completely destroyed. So will that make Padan Pain more unhinged? Will it like kill him? I hope not. That would be a really sad way for him to go. But I hope it makes him so unhinged that he's just thrown full pelt into the storyline, and I don't have to wait for another book or two and then for him to pop up for 10 pages. So I predict we get a more unhinged Padan Pain, if that's even possible. We also find out that Osangar was Deshiva, and Deshiva is now dead. So that's another one of the Chosen destroyed and gotten rid of. We also get some paragraphs from Cyndane, and I don't know exactly who Cyndane was. Maybe it's like Lanfear reborn, potentially. But she mentions some crucial information. She talks about when she was held by the Eilfin and Eilfin. And I think these guys are the key to the story. And every time someone's gone through Terangrial and been able to ask questions or ask for things like Matt, or, you know, ask questions like Moiraine did and Rand did and a few others, like they have the answers. And what that leads me to think is that the Eilfin and the Eilfin, I don't know their relationship to each other, but they seem to be like presiding over the pattern. I don't think that they decide exactly what happens, but it seems like they're in charge of just like making sure the pattern repeats itself, or ensuring that things happen like they're supposed to, because there's no other explanation for what Cyndane said, because they clearly like spit people back out into the pattern, into the world at the right time. Otherwise, why would she be held by them? And like when you go and ask questions, they have the answers for you, and that doesn't make sense unless they can see time and see what happens in the pattern as well. So I don't have like a fully formed idea, but I feel like they are like stewards of the pattern somehow. And I think a lot of me learning like exactly what's going on and how everything is, and the big reveal, is really learning their relationship to each other and their relationship to, you know, time and space as well. And that's it. What a book. So what am I looking forward to in the next book? I am a bit worried. Almost every single person has mentioned there's a slog. And so far, I've really enjoyed the last two books. However, there is a unanimous idea and a unanimous opinion that the next book, not much happens. So I obviously am still looking forward to it. It's a Wheel of Time book, but I'm just afraid that not much is going to happen, which it sounds like, you know, it is. But either way, regardless, what I'm looking forward to is I'm looking forward to the battles of the Black Tower and the White Tower as well. I'm looking forward to finding out who this person was who was in Teleramriod, who looked like Rand's father. And I'm also really interested in the Slayer storyline as well. So we have so many storylines to get into. If I have to plow through politics and posturing and, you know, negotiation and stubbornness and all the typical Wheel of Time things that kind of convolute normally the middle of the books for an entire book, I will do it because I'm committed. I've been reading these books for like 8 months now. So I'll see you in the next video. Thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe. And yeah, you tell me, is this a book that you really enjoyed? Is it one that you felt like was part of the slog? Were you as fired up for the ending as me? I'd love to hear your comments. Enjoy the rest of your day.